Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the all new, all fabulous Club Fantasy Trade Block. You found us, you love us. We're here, new night, new intro, same hosts.
No, Joel.
I'm your host. No Joel this week, but hey, we've got A plus number one substitute coming in hot off the bench to join us this evening, and that's Fizz. Fizzle, how are you doing this evening, sir? Thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, man. Look, I appreciate the invite. Once I got summoned, I said I got to be there, man. It was like my duty to America and the good people. So once I got the invite, man, I had to be here. Wasn't gonna be nowhere else. So appreciate it.
Yeet.
Oh no, we love it that you're here. Appreciate you here, because nobody wants to listen to just Hoove and I talk for an hour. Let's be honest. We got to have that third party here, mixing it up with us. So appreciate it.
We had to get a Cowboys fan in here at the start of the season, when they still got that joy, they still got that hope, they still got that aspiration for the season. But give it like week 10, they'll come around. You'll start seeing the cracks in the
That's
formation.
what they say, man. You gotta take them shades off, Hoove, man. You ain't seeing it right, Playboy. You missing.
Oh baby, I'd be curious by the end of the episode to hear your stance on the playoffs this year. See who your Super Bowl picks are. See who's a little more accurate at the end of the season. But we'll be all right. But it's going to be a great episode regardless. Today we got people piling into the comment section already. We got our guy Gator in the comment section.
Gator,
dude, that's a guy right there. That's a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go, Adam. Corey up in here. All right,
we've got a great show though this evening. We are talking all things Rhamondre Stevenson, who I think is a very polarizing player this season, particularly. So that's what we're going to be talking about before we get into talking about his value and some trades and everything. We gotta call out one of our great sponsors here, Trophy Smack. We are honored to talk about our sister site's new partnership with Trophy Smack. Head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF and start shopping for all your achievement-based wants and needs. Do you need a draft board for your league's offline draft? There's still time. Go get, how about a championship belt to bask in the rain as your league champion? How about a decorative ring to remind your league mates who the real champion is? Trophy Smack has it all. So head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF and get your gear today. A friendly reminder that any commissions we earn throughout this month of August and into September here, that using our link, it'll be added into the Women of Fantasy Football's WOFF/Galvanize Scholarship Fund, benefiting Laura Oakman's Galvanize, an organization that offers women the tools to succeed in sports media. You can find the links in our show description that will take you directly to Trophy Smack, and you can get some of their products and shop for the cause today. Woof, that was rough. I made it through it, but definitely go check them out. They got great products. So yeah, let's get right into it here.
We have right off the bat, we have a comment of a question. Ooh. So let's throw Fizz right into the fire right away. Let's pull up one of these just for our comment section. We appreciate you all in the comment section. 12-man PPR, Love, Gibbs, Mostert, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, Laporta, Chris Godwin, bench D-Hop, Palmer, Tua, Schultz, Javonte Williams, and Zach Moss.
Well,
I'm guessing is this a brag of your team?
I'm about to say
it sounds about right. If you in the comment section, if you can give us a little a little confirmation as to what you're asking, we would love to help you out. Rate 1 to 10.
It says rate at 1 to 10. So we'll pull up the team here.
That's a 10. I mean, you got a solidified wide receiver 1. I think AJ Brown can finish as the wide receiver 1 overall this season, just knowing Wonder Boy's system and how much he utilizes one wide receiver mostly, and just knowing how talented AJ Brown is in just general. So he could just smash that out of the park. Nico Collins, he's probably the guy that is going to be the most fantasy relevant. Tank Dell can give him a run for his money, but I think Nico Collins is the guy. So I really like this team. There's a little regression you're going to expect out of Laporta, but still probably top 5 finish. So I can't hate this. The bench, maybe I'd upgrade a little bit, but in a 12-man, you're not going to have the greatest bench in the world. So,
Fizz, what do you think?
It's cool. He got a home run hitter with Love, and people sleeping on Tua a lot. I feel like Tua can definitely surprise some people with that contract now. He's not scared for his job no more. He's comfortable. D-Hop being injured. Palmer could be the number one. Zach Moss is Zach Moss. So if you're going to have a tight end and you got Laporta, you already in the right steps. And Nico and AJ Gibbs. So I had to rate it, bro. I mean, it's kind of hard to go from 1 to 12 out of all the people, but I had to rate it. I'd give you a solid 6, brother. I'm gonna go 6, Soccer Man.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7. I like his team. You got 3 players with Gibbs, AJ Brown, Laporta. 3 of the main positions that could easily finish, all 3 of them top 5 of their position easily. Love. I don't know if he's got quite that upside, but I suppose if everything breaks right for the team, he could have that sort of upside. So I think you got a really solid squad here. A lot of upside on it. I agree with Hoove. The bench is a little bit light and weak, but that's what the waiver wire is for, to solidify that throughout the season. So yeah, I like your team. Thanks for throwing that in the chat there, man. Soccer Man. So getting back to Ramondre, looks like his current value on Dynasty Nerds is RB20, and on Sleeper it's RB22. So pretty close together. Fizz, I'm going to start with you since you're our guest here. Do you think that's fair value for Ramondre, or is he being over or undervalued in your estimation?
Well, right now, let me see. I'm trying to think what's around him. I actually had, let me see, PPR rankings.
We're gonna get to who he's around in about a few minutes or so.
Okay, yeah. Now, well, just for the question, let me see. He's about where he should be. I would say the main people that I think he can probably have a better season than personally would be Joe Mixon. I know people hound Joe Mixon, but I think Joe Mixon, man, he's coming to the end, and I think Ramondre is at the beginning. So if you're going to put a focal point on a team that's going to lean on their run game because they don't know exactly what they have at quarterback, the one thing I know about the Patriots, especially in this new era, it seems like they're not going to be an A-rated team. They're going to lean on their defense and try to wear down the clock. Now, that's going to be hard to do when you're down 30 points. So, that might not be as easy as said than done, but I believe they're going to really run Ramondre, man, as much as they can to keep Drake May and Brissett from turning the ball over and just having to do too much. So 20 seems fair, but I wouldn't be surprised if he finished in the 15-ish range, though.
What do you think, Hoove? Because I definitely have opinions about this guy.
Ramondre is someone at the start of the offseason, like I was pretty hellish on at his price, but to me now there's been like a gap that you kind of look at, like a tier in the middle that he just kind of lumps himself into. And I'm still, if the cards don't fall to me on draft day and I can't go after a top tier running back, I feel confident targeting this tier that Stevenson's on, whether it's him, whether it's White, whether it's there's another guy that's around him at that price, but still it feels appropriate, and that he's going to get a lot of the work this year. I'm not fazed by Antonio Gibson at all. I don't think anybody really should be. But last year, the way that things kind of fell, it made it more obvious that Zeke still had a little bit left in the tank that people wanted to doubt him on. But Stevenson, when he's fully healthy, he can be a top 10 running back if he has the right volume. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I want to see how great this offensive line can be starting out the year. Like, obviously that's why they're putting in Brissett, so that May doesn't get all the hits. So let's see what Stevenson could do with this current offensive line that they got working with.
Yeah, I think just first blush, knowing that he's in that 20 to 22 range, that sounds appropriate. for me. We'll see when it actually gets around to ranking some of the guys that are above and below him to get my real feelings on him. I just don't have faith. I know a couple years ago, Ramondre had that kind of breakout season, looked really great in that offense, but the Patriots are just such a mess right now with rebuilding that I just don't have faith in this offense. One, that they're going to have a lot of scoring opportunities, and two, just they're going to be playing from behind a lot. So I think they're going to end up throwing the ball a ton. And I just don't know if Stevenson's going to be the guy that's going to be on the field as an every down back. They brought in, you just said his name. Antonio Gibson, thank you. And pass catching is his bread and butter. That's what he's known for. So I think that he could be the guy that is on the field for those third downs. So I'm a little bit lower on Ramondre, I think, than most people, but maybe you guys will convince me that I'm wrong. By the end
I think I can. Once we start looking at the tiers, I think that it'll be easier. So let's pull up the tiers. Here's 5 running backs that are currently above Ramondre Stevenson on Dynasty Nerds. Isaiah Pacheco at RB15, DeAndre Swift at RB16, Javonte Williams at RB17, Rachaad White at RB18, and RB19, Najee Harris. This is currently on Dynasty Nerds. So out of these 5 running backs, is there any of these that you would consider taking Stevenson over? Let's start with Fizz.
Honestly, bro, I would take Stevenson over all of them, but Najee. Najee is definitely that dude. I love me some Najee, man. But I would take Stevenson over every one of those guys on that list. I don't trust DeAndre Swift. Rachaad White is more of a PPR kind of catching back. I don't know how much they really trust him to run the ball. And I'm not saying that's not going to hurt him. I mean, it's not going to help him in a sense as far as scoring, but I would take Stevenson over all the guys on the list except for, well, not Pacheco. I'm sorry, not Pacheco. I didn't see Pacheco there. I'm sorry. So Pacheco and Najee definitely before Stevenson, but Rachaad and Javonte, man, you can book them in front of those guys.
I'm very surprised Pacheco fell this far all the way to RB15.
Yeah, I wasn't. That feels kind of low. Yeah.
But out of these guys, the fact that Najee is the one that you're most bullish on, that's a little shocking to me. But for me, if anyone, like you were talking about Joe Mixon earlier, and we just compared Rachaad White to Joe Mixon last week, he's not the most efficient runner by any means. But there's some players that when they step on an NFL field, they can get the most out of the opportunities that they're given. And Joe Mixon, he might not be the prettiest runner. He might not look the greatest on the stat sheet, whatever, when you're looking back at the effectiveness metrics, whatever. But that's the same thing with Rachaad White. Like, I'm not as worried about Bucky Irving as some people are. So I think like I said, it's a tier thing. Like if either of these guys fell to me, I wouldn't be mad. Like, I don't know if I would definitely take Rachaad and Ramondre over Javonte and DeAndre. And Najee is like probably in the back end of that tier that I'm considering right now with Stevenson and White. But I think I would still take Stevenson over Najee as well. Just knowing that Jaylen Warren can take away opportunities any week.
Yeah, I think for me that the 2 guys that I would put below Ramondre in this tier is Swift and Javonte Williams. I think those other 3, I like them quite a bit more than Ramondre. So, that's where I'm sitting here. What are we looking like for the 5 guys going right after Ramondre Hoove?
So 5 RBs below Stevenson's ranking on Dynasty Nerds. We got Tyjae Spears at RB21, Alvin Kamara at RB22, Zamir White at RB23, and Jaylen Wright RB24. Last but not least, Fizz's guy Joe Mixon at RB25.
How are you feeling about these 5, Fizz?
Honestly, I would take Ramondre over all these guys, man. I think consistently, I would take him. Kamara could have spike weeks over him. I don't trust Zamir White at all. The offense is just not for me. Not saying that the Patriots is either, but I believe they are definitely going to be a team that's going to be throwing the ball. But I definitely think Spears is my guy. I like Spears, but I'm taking Stevenson over all these guys, man. So if I had to place him where he is in front of these guys, he's definitely going. In my list, man. I love Joe Mixon, man. I just don't think Father Time is going to get him, man, when that offense get to pumping. So
in Dynasty, this is pretty easy for me. Alvin Kamara is someone that I think I have him on the bottom end of the tier, right above Ramondre and Rashad and those guys. So I think I still would take Alvin Kamara. He's probably still going to be a bell cow down in New Orleans. Zamir White, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that the opportunity given to him, if he can knock it out of the park, that's someone that has top 10, top 12 candidate written all over him. Let's see if he can put it all together. But, this is one of those guys that if you like rooting for people, you're going to root for Zamir White to make the most of his opportunities in Las Vegas. So I'm rooting for Zamir White. I'm a Zamir White guy, but I think I still would take Ramondre over him just with the certainty, with the contract that he was given in New England, that that he's going to be there for the next few years. Jalen Wright, let's see it. Let's see it before we can even talk about taking over Ramondre. But Ty-J is just not a dynasty aspect. I'm big on him this year, and we talked about that 2 weeks ago when we had the Ty-J Spears, Tony Pollard episode. But he's just not a dynasty aspect. He could be easily replaceable, and all these guys, except for Alvin Kamara, could be replaced in the next draft class. So I think that Kamara and White questionably are the only two that I would take over Ramondre at this price.
Yeah, for me, for this season at least, I would take Kamara and Mixon over Ramondre just for this season. But if we're talking dynasty value here, I think I would take Ramondre over all these guys. Just give me the age. We know, as you said, who he's been signed to New England, so we know his job's pretty secure there for the next 2 to 3 years at least. Where these other guys, they're either age is getting to him. Fizz, as you said, Tajay, kind of a muddled backfield. He could easily be phased out of that offense, or he could be the RB1. We don't know. Zamir White, I'm even lower on than Ramondre. I am so out on him just altogether. So I think out of this group, though, specifically for dynasty considerations, I think Ramondre is going above all these guys for me.
Yeah, and I want to say, I know we talk about how bad the Patriots offense is, but just remember, they can finish in the top 5 again this year and stack more offensive players. And we talking dynasty, man, they can really open up this offense in the next year or so. Might not be the prettiest today, but if you give them a year or so with 2 top 5 season picks, anything can happen, man. It's some receivers coming out this year that can really help open up this offense. And, don't sleep on the Patriots too much, man.
I mean, hey, if anyone's capitalizing the most, you guys can check it out on my new article coming out tomorrow on Optimist. I'll give you guys a little breakdown of it, but I talked about it. Like, if Jamar doesn't play, I think it's plus 8.5 that the Patriots have going into Cincy. I would honestly take Patriots 8.5. I wouldn't take them to win, but I'd take them to cover because Jacoby Brissett, people are very underestimating him to be able to keep it within contention. So the Bengals have always been a team that they win late games, but they always keep it close.
Yep.
And so I'd keep my eye on the Patriots if they can't get the Chase contract figured out before Sunday. Like, keep your eye on the Patriots, keep it close. So that just popped in my head. That reminded me of that. But we can move along from our partners over at Dynasty Nerds. Let's talk about where Ramondre is falling on Sleeper currently for our viewers out there. So 5 RBs currently above Ramondre's ranking on Sleeper. We got Kenneth Walker at RB 17, Aaron Jones at RB 18, DeAndre Swift at RB 19, James Conner at RB 20, and David Montgomery at RB 21. So now that we're moving on from Dynasty, let's look at redraft a little bit. Fizz, is there anyone that this year alone that in redraft that you think that they have a better upside than Ramondre and you would take and
Yeah, definitely Swift. Swift is out for me, but those other guys in front of him, I don't know how much rushing Aaron Jones is going to do. I actually think Ty Chandler is a sleeper in that offense, but I believe Aaron Jones is coming to play this year. And 1 year deal, he won another contract. I'm sure. I trust the coaching. That offense is going to be a lot better than what people think. Kenneth Walker, he should definitely have a RB 1-ish type season. And James Conner can stay healthy, man. He got Kyler, Marvin Harrison. That offense is going to open up too. Monty, until his injury, we was ready to sell Gibbs in most leagues. So I would keep all those guys there in front of them except for Swift. I could roll with that crew.
Dustin?
Yeah, I'm pretty well in agreement there. Swift is a little bit closer for me than Euphiz. He's right there, probably at the bottom of that list with Ramondre. But I think overall I agree with you. I would rather take pretty much all those guys over Ramondre for this season.
Yeah, Aaron Jones. I mean, the talent is still there. I don't think he's just gonna fall off by any means. Like, you knew the Packers wanted to upgrade and get a younger RB to be with this young group that they have made and up in Green Bay. So I understand why they wanted to move off from him, but I don't think he's like a scrub by any means. I think that the fact that Kevin O'Connell just really doesn't utilize running backs the way that people would like in fantasy. Aaron Jones is going to have some opportunity, but I don't think that he's going to outproduce Ramondre. James Conner, I'd probably take him currently over. I'd wait a little bit, just knowing that people might wait a little longer on James Conner than Ramondre. But Kenneth Walker, if he doesn't finish RB13, I'm going to be shocked. Like, the RB17 for Kenneth Walker just feels way, way too low. Even to have him this close with Ramondre just feels almost like an insult to Kenneth Walker. And not even like Ramondre's bad or anything. It just, he shouldn't have fallen from grace that far to RB17, in my opinion. So I think I would take Ramondre probably over Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift. And then I think I would still confidently take him over David Montgomery as well. But James Conner and Kenneth Walker, I probably would take at cost instead of Ramondre.
All right, Hooven, what about the guys, the 5 right after him here?
All righty. So 5 RBs currently below Ramondre's ranking on Sleeper: Najee Harris at RB23, Tony Pollard at RB24, Raheem Mostert at RB25, Zamir White at RB26, and Nick Chubb at RB27. Is there any of these guys that you would take over Ramondre Stevenson? Let's start with Dustin. Let's go opposite.
All right. There's only one guy I would take over Ramondre, and that's Najee Harris. I think he's in line for a pretty good season this year. I think people are sleeping on him. I think he's going to bounce back from what we saw last year. So he's the only one on this list that I have any interest in over Stevenson. So just give me Najee. The rest can stay where they're at.
I'm kind of not really hoping Najee has a bad season, but I feel like I would be just so much more interested in Najee if he was on a different team. I don't know why. It's not Steelers. It's just I'm like, if Najee went to Dallas next off season, I think his ADP would jump at least 3 rounds just alone from what he could do in Dallas. But right now, I'm kind of hoping that in a dynasty aspect, Najee has a few bad games so I can capitalize on that, get him at a cheaper rate, a cheaper price. But this season alone, Zamir White's probably the only guy that I think would outproduce him. Or at least I just would avoid Tony Pollard at all costs with Tyjae Spears and Raheem Mostert, even though we know that eventually he's going to fall off. We haven't seen it. So I think that's the big thing. I don't know if this is going to be the year Raheem Mostert falls off. We know that Jalen Wright could obviously walk into that room and become the RB2 in that offense. So I think the only person that I would consider taking over Stevenson would be Zamir White. But even then, I think I'd still take Stevenson over everyone here.
Well, who, man? I know this is not a Najee Harris show, but bro, he's had 1,000 yards every season he's played, man. And Arthur Smith isn't the best passing guy, you know, and Derrick Henry was one of his guys at one point. So I think you're sleeping on Najee a lot, though, brother. But I know we on Stevenson tonight, so
Najee is like in the Arthur Smith offense, you know, like with how he liked to utilize Bijan versus Tyler Algier. Najee's probably the guy that Arthur's going to lean on more. Like he's more of the Tyler Algier. Like he liked using Tyler Algier more than Bijan. He just had to because he had all that pressure from the organization. So,
but I still think he can hit 1,000 yards at the least, though. Still think he can do that. And with that quarterback room, bro, I don't see how they don't lean towards the run game much more than, you know, people think.
That's going to be a better team than people think. I made a parlay that the Steelers made the playoffs, and I'm banking a lot on Russ proving the doubters wrong, Arthur Smith proving the doubters wrong. In that article tomorrow, you want to go ahead and read it on Optimist. I mean, we haven't talked about it. Like the Falcons Steelers week 1, that's one of the biggest games of the week because you know that either the Steelers are going to play their ass off for their new offensive coordinator, or the Falcons are going to play harder than ever to prove it to their old head coach. So I think the Steelers end up rallying around Arthur Smith to start out the year, and they start out the season hot. So Najee, you could convince me. It's just
that's what I'm trying to do, brother. That's what I'm trying to do.
You could convince me. It would really depend on my roster build, like on how interested I would be in targeting Najee Harris. Like there's plenty of opportunity for him to hit 1,000 yards once again, but it would be hard to pass up on Ramondre's talent and upside as well too.
Yeah, well, to finish out,
do you think that Najee could finish in the top 10? Regardless?
No, not top 10. No.
And we've seen the history with Ramondre being able to squeeze his way in there. So just like a little bit, just a sliver of difference that I'm going to lean Ramondre over, but I don't think that in any draft that I've had this offseason, and I got to practice what I preach, or preach when I'm practicing at least, is I don't think that I've ever had Najee and Ramondre both available and when I think I'm going to go Najee. So yeah, it would be hard to talk me into at this point 2 days before the season starts.
Oh yeah, I'm not even just saying Najee over Stevenson in general. I'm just saying I think you sleeping on Najee like as a whole, but. As far as the guys that's behind him, I don't even know how Nick Chubb is still at 27. I'm still kind of, confused about that one. But I would definitely take Stevenson over all these guys, except I got Najee a little bit in front of him. Maybe one spot, 2 spots, but it's neck and neck. But Stevenson 100% over this whole list that's behind him. So we can bank on that one on Sleeper.
Right on. I like that. All right. Let's move on from talking value here, and let's have the rubber meet the road. We'll talk some trades, but before we do, we should do a read from one of our other sponsors here, and that's Dynasty Nerds. You heard us talk about their values. They have a lot of great information. Do you want to take your Dynasty teams to a championship? Do you want to stack championships for years to come? Then you need to hear about Club Fantasy's newest partnership, Dynasty Nerds. Dynasty Nerds is one of the most trusted sources for both Dynasty advice and Dynasty tools. Their Nerd Score helps you identify rookies with high ceilings and longevity to keep you in contention for years. If what you're looking for is film on incoming rookies, then look no further than their All-22 film room. They even have a Dynasty trade calculator that can help you find values throughout the season and better understand how to value players across an ever-changing landscape. And these are just a few of the tools that they offer. Just head to dynastynerds.com to see for yourself. Choose from one of their subscription plans, and at checkout, enter the code CLUBFANTASY, one word, to save 15% off your subscription. Once again, go to dynastynerds.com and use promo code CLUBFANTASY to get 15% off.
Beautiful.
All right.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
You know what? I appreciate that, Hoove. Thank you. So yeah, let's start getting into some of these trades here and see where, as I said, the rubber meets the road, what actual value is, as opposed to kind of what these, consensus rankings we've been talking about are. So Hoove, throw the first one up here on the screen here for us to talk about.
All righty, I'll pull it up. So the first one, we're going to choose a side. Which side? Ramondre Stevenson and a 2025 third, or Zamir White and a 2025 second. So basically, we're just moving from the third round to the second round for the swap between Stevenson and Zamir between the age. Which side are you doing, Fizz?
I'm practice what I was preaching or preach what I was practicing, man. I'm gonna go Stevenson in the third. And just hope that second is like a super late second, so it wouldn't really harm me. But I'm gonna go Stevenson in the third, man. I think he has a better chance of keeping the jobs. We could see Zamir get replaced next year, and honestly, I don't see how it might not happen with this running class that we have coming up. So I'm gonna stick with my guns and go Stevenson in the third on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. As I said just a few minutes ago, I'm more out on Zamir White than I am Ramondre. I think Ramondre definitely has the safer role. So yeah, give me the Ramondre side. Hoove, where are you on this one?
It's close enough for me between White and Stevenson that I think I would do it just to upgrade from the third to the second. Who knows, maybe you can always flip 2025 second for something else, around that price range. And if you, let's say you flip 2025 second for someone like Romeo Doubs, if it was Zamir White and Romeo Doubs for Ramondre Stevenson at 2025 third, I feel like a lot of people would be interested in it at that price. So I think I'm going to take Zamir White in 2025 second and upgrade, see how I can build my team there just from the age alone between White and Stevenson, 26 versus 23, I believe, 24, I believe. So 2 years difference. You always want to get younger running backs in building just because running backs, it's so hard to hold value for a long time that sometimes flipping that value down to 2 years is just the best way to keep your dynasty good for a long time. So I'm going to go White in a second here.
All right. What's up next?
So it's very similar. We're just not getting a pick back. Which side, Ramondre Stevenson or Devin Singletary and the 2025 second? Dustin.
What? Oh, go ahead, Dustin.
This is gross.
Yeah.
I guess I'll take the Devin Singletary and the 25 second side here. Just for the second round pick, maybe Devin Singletary pops off a couple weeks and you can trade him for a second on his own for a running back needy team. But I don't really like either side here. But give me the side with the pick.
This is a classic. Let me see how the other team looks. If the second looks like a 202, 203, maybe I do it. But if it's a late second, I feel like Devin Singletary is just a wash at this point. You maybe get a third for him at the best. So I would take Stevenson if I had to just on surface, on the face value. But if it's a team that doesn't look like they can win much and you're going to bank on that, I would take the second if it's going to be a high pick. So I would have to look at the rosters before I make this trade.
I feel like people are kind of doubting Devin Singletary at this point. Like, everyone wants to believe that Tyrone Tracy's just going to take over this backfield and that they can get a really discounted RB1 in Dynasty in the third, maybe even fourth round in some cases. And I don't think it's a possibility that it's going to happen. I mean, Devin Singletary, who do you think has more talent at the NFL level? Tyrone Tracy or Dameon Pierce? And obviously Devin Singletary came into Houston and just took over that backfield 100% from Dameon Pierce. So I think that if you put Devin Singletary as your RB 32, and that seems like probably right around where he'll finish, like right where he probably should, right at the bottom tier of RB1s in most cases in value. So what he's going to be priced at. Stevenson just has so much more upside on where he could finish. He could finish, anywhere between bottom half of the top 12 to RB 18, where he's probably where he's being ranked currently. So I don't think Devin Singletary has the upside that Stevenson has. So I think I would hold on to Stevenson in this case.
Yeah, and as far as Singletary, I'm not sleeping that he shouldn't be the RB1. I just don't know how much of an RB1 he can be with this offense. So I think at some point, if you have him, you're just going to be like, when do I even start this dude? So That would be my way of just saying, here, you want him for Stevenson? Let me get him. Have him. So that's my only thing. When do you trust him to play him? First big game, I'm selling him for anything you can give me. Third round, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Not bad. All right. Next one, we got which side? Ramondre Stevenson or Brian Robinson and a 2025 second. Is Brian Robinson that much better than Devin Singletary that you think that you would do it confidently?
I would say he's younger. He's young enough. Singletary is a little older. He's in a better situation with the offense. I think people sleeping on B-Rob. I think he's a lot better than what a lot of us believe. So if the second is involved, I would definitely consider it a lot. Straight up or maybe a late third, I'll maybe go Stevenson. But for what I believe Robinson can do in this offense and the second on top of it, I will go B-Rob in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree 100%. I think Brian Robinson is going to have a sneaky good year this year. I'm not saying like he's going to flirt with like being a top 12 running back or anything like that, but I do think he's going to return good value on at least in redraft this year where you had to draft him. And I think for Dynasty, yeah, he's he fully recovered from that injury. He had that fluke injury he had last year, that shooting. There's a lot of hype in camp last year for him. So yeah, I think he's going to have a sneaky good season. I think he could be the guy for the next couple seasons here for Washington, even with this really good, what should be a good running back class coming out this next year. I think he's going to be the guy for them. They have so many other positions that they need to focus on improving on. I feel like his position's pretty safe. So give me Robinson in the second here.
When we talked about it last week with Brian Robinson, is Fizz, you tell me what you think about this. Is the best comp for Brian Robinson in Dynasty is like David Montgomery, and that, like, let's say next year they bring in a top tier running back to replace Austin Eckler in that offense in the second round, third round, whatever draft capital they want to invest in it. Like, I feel like Brian Robinson is talented enough, and that he's proven, and he will prove this year as well, that he's going to get opportunities and he's going to take away targets from that RB in 2025 draft class. Or even if, let's say, he goes to another team after Washington, he's just going to be someone that whenever he's on the roster, you can't count him out for getting opportunities to see the field. So Brian Robinson is someone that, even though he's not an RB1, Washington might not be the best place for his skill set right now with how bad their offensive line is. You probably need a little more explosivity to overcompensate for a bad offensive line with how bad that offensive line really is. And that's why I feel like they brought in Austin Eckler. That's why they drafted Jaden Daniels to overcompensate for it. But Brian Robinson's going to be, like the David Montgomery in Detroit, is he's probably going to get a lot of the carries, but Austin Eckler is the guy that they're hoping for the most upside with the carries that he has to get more yards out of them. So you never know. I think I would actually do Brian Robinson in 2025 second, just because I think that Brian Robinson is someone that we can't count out for a few years to come.
Definitely.
Yeah. Hey, before we hit our next trade, we got a question in the chat here from the Equinox FF. In draft picks, what would you trade to acquire Stevenson? Goes on to say, it's a full PPR 12-team Superflex. I have an RB needy team.
This is one of the hard things in Dynasty. It's like inflation's killing everyone right now, and even in the RB market, because inflation just keeps going up, and that there's only so many RBs that people can target. And Ramondre Stevenson's someone that if you have him, you're more bullish on him than you think, just because you don't want to get nothing back. You don't want to not get an RB back. You don't want to just trade him straight up for a wide receiver because there's just not an RB replacement out there for him. I mean, maybe like obviously in these cases with draft picks and whatnot, but I think that you'd want as close to a first as possible with Ramondre. And I don't know if a manager would be willing to give it to you at this point. So he's almost like someone like Devontae Adams or Derrick Henry. is that if you have him, you know that he's going to bring more value than what a trade could probably bring. So draft picks might be a hard one to get Ramondre with, but I mean, if you threw a 201 in the 2024 draft class at this point, someone would have done it, to take a stab on Keon Coleman or someone early in the second round, maybe even just replacing him with Jonathan Brooks, and just going a few years younger with that injury for Brooks. So that would probably be the closest thing, would be like the earliest second that you can find right now.
Yeah.
No. Second's probably the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. I think that first is definitely going to be tough. No matter how good just say you're on a 3-game stretch where he looks good, I still think it's going to be a little hard because of the running back position as a whole. But second rounder is definitely something I would consider. Of course, if I'm the one buying, I'm trying the lowest second I can and then try to stack my way up. I wouldn't start with the 201 on the first offer, So if you got a lower second, I would try that. And even if you look at this draft class, I know you just said this the picks, but like Tyrone Tracy, we just spoke on him. If you got a Tyrone Tracy, throw in a second and a Tracy. Like a lot of times people, when they give away a guy just for a pick, they want you to throw in a replacement just to kind of fill the void a little bit sometimes. So if you had one of those guys that got some off-season hype and you don't believe in them, throw that in with the pick, man. That'll definitely get you one. So I like the second. Mid-second at least start off for Stevenson.
This is something that I used Brian Robinson as this example last year, is that if people wanted him, I want something back that makes it worth the trade. Like a second round pick is probably what Brian Robinson was worth, but he's shown that he's given me that, he's not just a bust. So if you want Brian Robinson, I want 2 second rounders. So I get 2 opportunities to try to find another Brian Robinson. And if I'm lucky, I can find 2 Brian Robinsons with those draft picks. But, like if you look at the percentage wise of how likely you're going to hit in the second round, you'd want that. You want that confidence that you're getting 2 attempts instead of 1. So Ramondre is almost like that guy now, that if you gave me, just seeing how the draft class and the RB draft class is shaken out this year, if someone would have offered me 2 late seconds earlier in this offseason for Ramondre, I probably wouldn't have done it. But looking back now, like, would you have done a trade for Ramondre Stevenson of Jalen Wright and Blake Corum? Like right now, you'd probably do it, So maybe even 2 late seconds, seeing how the draft class could fall, I think I'd even be considered doing that as well.
Yeah. All right. Got a couple other questions here in the chat from Easy B. Someone shot me St. Brown and James Cook for CeeDee Lamb and a 25 back end first, high end second. Thoughts on that value? Or would you make this trade?
Easy B, listen to me when I tell you, brother, don't do it. Okay. St. Brown and Cooks is not enough for CeeDee Lamb by itself, let alone just another pick on top of it. So I'm not giving up CeeDee Lamb for James Cook and St. Brown, brother. So
that's that cowboy bias right there.
This is if you're gonna capitalize on last year, I was getting CD super late because everybody had Chase and Jefferson over him. So if he's now officially the receiver 1 in Dynasty, there's no way I'm not selling them for 2 first plus. Like I don't want St. Brown and Cooks. I need St. Brown, Cooks, and a first. That's what I would do, bro. So I'm not giving you a first for St. Brown and Cooks. It's not plus I'm not getting any, even if it was just St. Brown and Cooks for Lamb by itself, maybe you might consider that. I wouldn't, but maybe you would. But it's no way you're due a pick with Lamb and he's the best, highest rated player at his position right now. I'm not going to do it. So,
oh man, I think that it would be hard to find a difference other than a second round pick between St. Brown and Lamb. So James Cook is probably worth a late first at this point still, in most people's minds. So the value is saying St. Brown and Cook, but I'm just not big on James Cook, even though I think that if you could I don't know, I'd probably just keep St. Brown and Cook in this one. Lamb at a back end 1. That's, I mean, if you can get that back for that, sure, that's great. But man, there's just too much of a different, or too close of a value between St. Brown and Lamb for James Cook being a 25 back end 1 and 2 to do this for me. I think I would just keep the team as is and not make this move.
Well, no, he's the one that has Lamb in the pick. He wants St. Brown. Well, he's getting offered St. Brown and Cook though.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I think I'd keep Lamb at that point then.
Yeah. Went on to say it's a 12-man PPR Superflex. Scott Burrow-Love, Brian Robinson, Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson, Puka, Laporta as his main guys. Thoughts who I can upgrade my RB room with, knowing that is my base. I mean, if you're going after, going back to that original trade, if you're gonna take St. Brown and James Cook to upgrade your running back room a little bit, and maybe just a slight tier down with St. Brown, that's fine for Lamb. I think that value is fine, but I would not add a pick onto that though, personally, for Lamb and a pick for those two. If anything, I'd want just maybe a slight bit more on that St. Brown side to make that happen, but if you're really looking to upgrade your running back room and you feel like James Cook is the guy that could do that for you, I don't hate that trade. But that's me.
No, I mean, but let's just say last year, right? Do you think he would have got Jefferson for that last year with the hype that Jefferson had coming into the season? And then he had to add a pick with it. You know what I'm saying? Like CD has that vibe right now in Dynasty where every draft I'm in, I can't get him no more. Last year I was getting him for a steal price. Now I can't get him because if you're not top 6, 7, you're not gonna get him. So if you're gonna value him like that in your rankings, or most people will, I need everything that you can offer me to get it. I'm definitely not adding a pick with it. So James Cook and St. Brown plus a pick, then we talking. But I'm not sending you a pick with Lamb. That wouldn't happen.
No, definitely not. Hoove, any additional thoughts with that one?
No, I would probably leave that one as is. I mean, I'm kind of just taken back. I had to charge my laptop. I didn't want it to die in the middle of the episode.
Hoove was trying to roll out on us, man.
But that was that was crazy. Just obviously I understand why CD's ranked that high, but that almost is discounting Amon-Ra so much to think that Cook is the difference maker between him and CD, even though it's justified. CD is like a top 3 100%. I just think Amon-Ra is any given week he can finish in that top 3 as well. He might not finish as top 3, but I think he could finish as wide receiver 1 this season. He was my dark horse wide receiver 1 last year, and he knocked it out of the park. So that CD is going to finish in the top 3 confidently in most cases now. But you also feel confident in Amon-Ra finishing top 5 as well. So James Cook isn't the difference maker between that for me. So that's all I would say. Got a few more trades before we wrap things up today. Which side, Rhamondre Stevenson or Jerome Ford and a 2025 second?
Please don't start with me, bro. Go ahead, Dusty, man. Don't start with me, man. Please. I might cut the show off.
I'll take Rhamondre with this one. I don't know. Jerome Ford, he's going to start the season as the RB1 there in Cleveland, but after that, Nick Chubb comes back. Is he going to return to form? We don't know what's left in the tank there for Chubb. I think he could have something this season yet, a little bit after the season. Who knows? Just give me the known with Rhamondre. I think Jerome Ford could be easily replaced via the draft after this season.
To my co-manager and Pros with Joe's, Yvette, I am incredibly sorry. We did not land Jerome Ford. I failed the mission. It was Jerome Ford no matter what. Right before we went live with this, Jeff Bell sniped me on Jerome Ford in the Pros with Joe's competition. And I'm incredibly sad because I'm huge on Jerome Ford this year. I think that he's going to knock it out of the park. This guy has top 20 written all over him. League winner at his price currently. And so this year alone, like I think that Jerome Ford is going to produce enough that and the 2025 second for longevity with Ramondre. I would 100% do Jerome Ford and 2025 second for Stevenson, even as someone that thinks that Stevenson is going to get most of the carries in New England. You also know that Jerome Ford, everything goes to the run game in Cleveland. So Jerome Ford is someone that, I mean, when you look at his opportunities of catching passes in the backfield, he's catching as many passes as like Christian Watson, who's going around his ADP at wide receiver. And then he also has like 8 rushes, 10 rushes a game as well in Cleveland. So Jerome Ford is someone that I can't hype up enough going into this year. He is an absolute dog.
Talk to him, baby. Talk to him.
Yeah, it's Jerome Ford season, baby.
Talk to him, baby.
Ford built tough.
Listen, fellas. I'm saying this. This has been my cold prediction, hot prediction, bold prediction, right? Last year, Jerome Ford, he didn't come into the training camp knowing he was going to be the number one. He came in thinking I'm a backup. Chubb gets hurt. I think he finished top 15 or 16 at the end of the year with like 5 different quarterbacks, all which were terrible except for Joe Flacco, right? This offense did nothing but get better. Deshaun Washington should hopefully be better. And listen, I'm going on a limb with this, but I put it on all my teams, man. Jerome Ford, every game that he plays will finish as an RB1, top 12 every single week, bro. Listen, he's going to be so good that Chubb might not come back till December because they're just going to let him take your time. We need you for the playoffs. So as long as he's a starter on that team, Jerome Ford, top 12 every single year, I'm counting on it. So I love me some Jerome Ford. I'm taking a second because after this year, they could say, look, Chubb, we appreciate you. We love you, man. We paid you. It's deuces, Jerome Ford time, baby. So
deuces.
I'm Jerome
that's
Ford.
Spicy, and I love it. I
Jerome
love it.
Ford, baby. That's my hot take for the year all year, man. I love me some Ford.
I'm trying to find a guy right now for Pros with Joe's before I get sniped.
I had a show this morning, and I literally said the same exact thing. So I already had this queued up in my head, man, about Jerome Ford.
Nice.
So, I love this one right
Love
here.
it. All right. Another question in the chat here. Would you trade 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Gibbs? That's a 12 team. Both picks would probably be mid. So 2 firsts, 2 seconds.
For me, no, I couldn't. One, Monty's still on the team. You know, it's not like he's gone, and that's a trade I would see for Breece Hall if you can hopefully get that. But 2 firsts and 2 seconds, man, that's a receiver territory. I don't think you spend that on running backs in most times. 1 first and a second, maybe, but 2 firsts and 2 seconds, I don't see me doing that, Chandler. So I'm not sure if you're the one sending it or somebody sending it to you, but I'm okay on that trade, brother.
Yeah, I would say if I was trying to trade for Gibbs, I agree. 1 first, 1 second, I'd be comfortable with. But if someone's offering you 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Gibbs, I hit that smash. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hulk smash your screen right now, brother.
I don't think I could. I think I'd give up a first and a second at this point for Gibbs. When Montgomery's gone, then we can talk about that price. That's prices that you're paying for Breece Hall. That's prices you're paying for CMC. CMC probably not that much with Dynasty, just with his age, but pretty close. I mean, Breece Hall, that's probably exactly what you're going to give up. Gibbs, in my opinion, he's just not in that Hall tier yet. He has the talent too. It's just the opportunity and the offense, and you know that Montgomery is just going to be a thorn in his side for a long time. So I can't give up that price for Gibbs, even though some people probably would, and those are the people that you should capitalize on.
Well, you say Hulk smashing, so maybe he's the one that got the offer, man. So I hope you smashing his share button, bro.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So another guy that I am extremely hell-bent on this season, like I am with Jerome Ford, but a wide receiver. So this is one of those times, like I said, I'm not big on trading running backs for wide receivers at this point, but it's going to be hard for me because in a half-point PPR, Ramondre Stevenson for Jackson Smith and Jigba. How do we feel about in redraft this year, trading Ramondre for JSN?
You said in redraft?
Let's do redraft, yep.
Okay, half PPR makes it a little spicy. PPR would have definitely made it like, But half PPR, man, I think the consistency will be Stevenson. I think JSN's gonna have spike weeks. And they just had Kadarius Toney come to the team today. So they obviously looking for more receiver help. I'm not saying Kadarius is any threat, but I'm just saying for them to be looking at another receiver is like, I feel like you re-sign Lockett and you got Jake Bobo. You don't need another guy. So if you're looking for another guy, they might not be 100% comfortable with what they have. So half PPR, I might take Stevenson, and I'm gonna just pray that Jackson Smith doesn't have the breakout year 2 that I think he's going to have. So I would go Stevenson half PPR.
Oh man, the sky's the limit for this guy. 1,000 yards season for JSN, baby.
I'm with you. PPR though, I'm staying Jack, but I think half PPR. Stevenson might fall in a touchdown a couple more times, bro.
I agree. That's probably the best way to put it. Is Stevenson's safer every week. JSN, he's gonna outperform. But just with the fact that there's very limited running backs that you can like fill that hole with confidently, I think I'd lean to Ramondre, even though JSN's primed for 1,000 yards. Ramondre could finish 1,000 yards on the ground as well. So half PPR that it gives a little more value to the running backs. That that they're just pounding the rock all the time. So I think I'm good with Ramondre here and holding on to him.
Yeah, I agree with both of you on that one. Although it's close, I do think JSN's going to have a great season. We know Lockett's a little dinged up going into the season, so that's probably why they're bringing in Toney just as a extra body there. But so JSN's going to be on the field a lot more than what we saw last year to start the season. And he had that injury last year, which kind of slowed him down at the beginning of the year as well. So I think JSN's going to really have a great year this year, but I think only because it's half PPR, I'm going to lean with you guys with Stevenson on this one.
Yeet. All right. We got one more trade, unless you guys want to throw something out in the comment section. You guys got anything? I don't see anything currently. So if you have any other trades, make sure you guys go ahead, drop them, because we're going to go through the last one on our end right now and wrap things up. So one more. Which side, Ramondre Stevenson or Blake Corum in the 2025 second? Are you buying the Kyren Williams returning punts storyline, or are you out?
I mean, you start us off.
Okay, all right. I don't know if I could trust Corum in it for Stevenson. Like, Stevenson has the job. There's no question about it. There's no threat to his job. The second sounds good, and I believe that Blake Corum will take this job at some point from Kyren. Maybe not the RB1 every week, but I think he's going to challenge that RB1, RB2 line enough that we won't be able to trust Kyren as an RB1 consistently. Putting him on the punt return. One thing I know about Sean McVay, man, he loves those receivers. Cooper Kupp, Puka, those are his guys. Running backs, if he draft one next year in the first round, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, he just doesn't really, he don't fall for those guys. So I don't trust Blake or Kyren to go enough to start Stevenson over. So I would go Stevenson over Blake. But I trust Blake to have a good season. I'm just taking Stevenson to be more consistent, and he already got his job locked in.
To me, Blake Corum is what is closer to what people wanted Zach Charbonnet to be last year. The only difference is that he's having an offensive play caller that actually knows how to utilize the most of his talent. With Sean McVay, no disrespect to Pete Carroll and, well, some disrespect to Shane Waldron with how he did that. But there's reason to believe why Blake Corum can come in and take the job, just seeing the history with LA. But if you look even closer at the history, then you just can see that Blake Corum's going to be a guy that he's probably going to be a league winner in weekly cases. Like, if Kyron's banged up, Blake Corum's going to come in and get the entirety of the workload and win you that week. So drafting him, having him on your team is incredibly valuable, depending on where you're drafting him and how you're building your roster around it. But I'm not sold on like going after Blake Corum in a lot of cases. I think this is one of those cases that I would do it if I was going to be tearing down my team. If I was going to look at it and go, okay, I need a draft pick, I need a younger running back. Even though I love what Rhamondre can do this season, and I don't know if Blake Corum can get to that level, I think that it's close enough just seeing the opportunity that Blake Corum can have with Sean McVay. He's not going to like take away everything from Kyren Williams like Zach Charbonnet was never going to take away everything away from Kenneth Walker. Even though the efficiency metrics weren't showing that Kenneth Walker was a great running back. I mean, same thing, Joe Mixon, Rachaad White, that when he's on the field, metrics don't matter. He's making the most of his opportunities, so he'll see the field. As long as he's not the worst pass blocker in the history of the league, he will see the field. And so Kyren Williams is going to take a little ding in value, but it's not like we need to be like all hands on deck. Let's sell Kyren Williams at this point. But I think I would I would take a shot on Blake Corum in the 2025 second in most cases.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of team dependent for me on this one. Like if I was competing, I'd probably take Rhamondre. But if I was more of a rebuild type squad, I would take the Corum in the second. And then, Corum's going to have a blow up week. If you don't believe in him long term, you could sell him pretty high, get extra draft capital just to build off of for next year. We know this running back class is going to be somewhat stacked next year. You could just rebuild through the draft for your running back core if you needed to then. So I guess for me, it kind of depends. If I'm competing, I'd probably want Rhamondre. But yeah, if I'm tearing it down, rebuilding, give me the Corum and the pick side.
Perfect answer, I think. Yep.
Beautifully stated. So is there anything else in the comment section that we've got for you guys?
Yo. Yeah. I think it's one. I think the one just popped up.
I know. What's up, brother?
So we got Henry for DK in PPR.
Guessing this is redraft. This is really cool.
Yeah, as old as Henry is, bro, it's hard to bet against the king, man.
I know.
I think in a full PPR, I'd lean DK over Henry, but it's close. It's very, very close in redraft.
I would say whatever position you're lacking the most, take the other.
Yeah,
need a running back, take Henry. Need a receiver, take DK.
Yep.
All right, one more. Full PPR, Zay Flowers or Tank Dell?
Zay all day, man.
Mm-hmm.
Tank. I think Tank had a bigger spike weeks, but I think Zay is gonna be more consistent, bro.
You guys are my kind of people, man. Oh yes, let's go. I have a bet going on with the owner of, or not the owner, the person that runs the Reddit fantasy football account, and I came out and I said one of my hot takes was that Zay Flowers finishes multiple weeks as the wide receiver 1 overall, and just seeing the way that the run game can open up things for the pass game with Zay Flowers, and the way that the box is going to open up in the middle, and that they're basically going to have to pull from their secondary if they're going to want to contain Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry behind that offensive line. So I think Zay Flowers is going to have multiple week wide receiver 1 finishes. I would say over under, I think that we set the bar at 2. So if he has like over 3, the guy has to donate to Fantasy Cares on behalf of Zay Flowers. So Zay all day, baby. Even though Tank Dell, like he's gonna be incredibly good this season. I'm not worried about Tank Dell. There's going to be some weeks that Zay Flowers will win you a week alone, in my opinion. Tank Dell is probably the more consistent pick, but Zay Flowers is a league winner, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One last question. Do I hold on to Romeo Doubs? Have seen good things in this offseason, but unsure on that wide receiver room.
Hey, that's the receiver 1 in Green Bay, baby. Receiver 1, Romeo Doubs, man. Lock it in. Christian Watson to me isn't consistent enough. I feel like, remember when Aaron Rodgers still on that team and that preseason, Jordan Love and Doubs was like this. That whole preseason, the touchdowns. You can even watch the Dallas Cowboy game in the playoff last year. Romeo Doubs had a hell of a game, man. That was his go-to. He was open almost the whole game, but I like Dobbs, man, is the receiver one on this team. I think Christian Watson has the better athleticism. He's probably the better playmaker, but Dobbs has a nick for that end zone, man. And I trust Dobbs, so I will hold Dobbs. If you have, I mean, I don't know what your receiving room looks like, but I like Dobbs this year. That had one of the best years he's ever had. So
Dobbs feels like Tank Dell at a discount. That's the best way to put it. Is like Love loves Dobbs in the slot. So in the same way with Stroud and Tank Dell, it's like even if he was pulling all NFL team, he was going to still put Romeo Dobbs the same way that Stroud was going to put Tank Dell in the slot. So yeah, I would take Romeo Dobbs and wait a little bit over Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed at this price just feels like a trap.
Yeah, Reed at cost is nope.
And as someone that is very, very bullish on Luke Musgrave, I think that's something there's a reason why Jayden Reed was so valuable last season as well. Is that once we see, like we saw the first half of the season last year in Green Bay, for the most part, is like we didn't really get to see that whole team completely healthy at its full amount. But when Luke Musgrave was on the field the first half of the year, like you saw that he was like the second target in that offense. So I'm curious to see how much Luke Musgrave chips away at Jayden Reed this year. But it's almost like in every wide receiver room that's incredibly talented is that whoever's the cheaper one is probably the best value, like Achane, Mostert, Wright. Like if you can get Mostert at a discount or you can get Wright at a discount, that's the best value out of that whole backfield, 100%. So like Watson, even though I think that he's probably like the truest wide receiver one out of that whole wide receiver group, where he's falling in drafts, it's like, well, I'd rather just like wait a little bit just to see if I can get some more value out of Romeo Dobbs. So I would hold on to Dobbs. I wouldn't be as worried, just depending on how your roster is built. But I think that this going into this offseason is going to be the cheapest that Romeo Dobbs has ever been and will be for a long time to come. So if you just hold on to him for another offseason, I can guarantee that you'll get more trade compensation than you would right now. So hold on to him if anything.
Yep, I agree. Hold on to Dobbs. No reason to get rid of him. And I agree with you, Hoove. I think after the season, his value will be increasing. And I think that is a great place to leave the show this evening. Before we head out, though, make sure you're following all of us. You can follow our guest host, Fizz, at Fizzledollars. You can follow Hoove at HooveTube, and you can follow me at FFDustyDog. And make sure you're following and subscribing to Club Fantasy FFL and the Women of Fantasy Football at women_of_FF. And make sure you're checking out all the shows under the Club Fantasy banner. On Monday, we've got Mocking with the Stars. Tuesday, we've got the Masterclass. You've also got us, Trade Blocked, as well on Tuesday's new night. On Wednesdays, you've got the Women of Fantasy Football. On also Wednesday, you've got the flagship show of No Punt Intended. And then on Thursday, you've got Mock Girl Summer. On Friday, Mock It Like It's Hot. And on Sunday, it's the Dynasty After Party. So we've got something every single day of the week for you here to get yourselves prepped and ready to answer any single question you have regarding fantasy football. Fizz, thanks again for joining us here. It's great having you on the show. You are welcome back anytime you want to come on, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, man. You know, like I said, when I got the message today, I was literally recording the show early, and I was like, oh, okay, I ain't going nothing tonight. So, you know, now my schedule getting a little, like, it seemed like, you know, I'm picking up a little bit of steam, and I got my show on Fridays, and now I got a morning show coming up when the season starts on Tuesday. So I just locked that in, and you know, I'm over at South Harmon, man, you know, having a good time over there with my guys. But I want to shout out you guys, man. I feel like because I have the notifications on the YouTube channel. And every time I look at my phone, it's a new show popping up like bing, 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 bing. So I actually was like, man, you know, every time it's consistent day to day, you know, and I'm not sure the scheduled times, but it's always something on YouTube where you guys on live, so or pre-recorded or however you do it. So shout out to you guys, man, for staying consistent. And we in the game now, baby. This is time to keep moving through the door, you know. So I'm glad I'm here. I appreciate it. And anytime you need me, just holler at me. I'll be here.
Club Fantasy is on the map. It's on the map. Trade Block's on the map. We're most definitely on the map. But it was a great show today. I appreciate you. You coming, swinging by. You're welcome anytime. But it's Jerome Ford season, baby. Can't get
baby. Ford tough, baby.
So
all right, and I think that is a perfect spot to leave it. So we'll see y'all next week. Good luck. Week 1 here of the NFL season starting Thursday. So good luck to all your teams out there, and we'll see you next week, folks.